What's up, everybody? Happy Monday. How is it going?
Happy Monday.
Yes. Good news.
We're champs.
We're champs. We actually made it to the finals, soccer tournament on Saturdays. The final was played yesterday, Sunday. 3-1. Good win.
Good win. A little accidental on your end.
No, I got side tackled and my ankle is in pain. So if you didn't see me move too much, that's why. But anyways,
it was good. It's good to get back to a final. Lift the trophy. Let's go.
Lift the trophy. Yeah.
Winning is more fun than fun is fun.
We have some of those pictures in our social media if you want to go check them out and share the love. And if you're playing some sports and you have your own wins, let us know. We love sports, obviously. But enough of that today. We're talking about content and how to actually get people to stop scrolling. We're going to be sharing some of those principles today. This was actually a training.
Not just to stop scrolling, but actually stayed and watched your videos.
That's right. This was actually a training that FONZI did last week for our team, and we can't wait to bring it to you. So
yeah, I mean, we're just gonna chat about it
pretty
much.
Talk to me.
All right. Are we gonna do like a little intro?
Sure.
We've got some
I'm Luis.
And this is FONZI.
And welcome to the Content is Profit podcast.
In here, you're going to get the insights, accountability, and drive to create consistently and increase revenue.
You'll hear from top entrepreneurs, creators, and anything and everything you need to know about content. All this while having a good time.
The goal of this podcast is simple: entertain, educate, and turn your content into profit.
Let's go.
You forgot the sounds.
I was like, is it the purple or the pink?
Guys, welcome back to another episode of Content is Profit. Today we're gonna talk about actually getting people's attention and holding that attention so they get to watch your videos and your videos reach more people, connecting you with a bigger audience and therefore turning that into a bigger profit for your business. But before we start, make sure you follow the show Content is Profit, whatever you listen to your podcast. Make sure you click that subscribe or follow button, whatever it is. I don't even remember anymore. And make sure you follow us in social media at BIZBROS Co. on Facebook, on Instagram. What else? What else we got?
I mean, if they want to be a part of the awesome community of creators and entrepreneurs, you search Content is Profit on Facebook. It's right there. And you'll be able to connect with hundreds of other creators that are doing their own thing and amazing things around content and obviously their jobs. So
that's right. So let's dive in straight to it. We're going to be talking about content structures, right? Like what are some of the elements that you can learn that then you can implement inside of your content, whether that is clips, whether that is a long form piece of content, just like a podcast, like you're listening to not only get people's attention, but also keep them engaged throughout the video. And why are we talking about this, right? And actually, Instagram just released recently a new update that they give insight in not only, right, the amount of people that are watching your videos, how many views you're getting, which they already had that in the past, but now they're actually going to give you kind of like that retention analytics. They're going to tell you like when is people falling from your videos, which if you are familiar with YouTube, they actually have those analytics in there and they're super helpful. You can see a chart for every video that you upload and you can tell exactly when people are falling off your video, meaning maybe you weren't engaging enough, right?
Yeah.
And obviously it also shows how many people are kind of like clicking through your thumbnail, that click-through rate, which on Instagram, on clips, on shorts, it might be different because they're not clicking specifically to watch that video unless they're on your profile. But you still get that click-through rate, and I'm doing air quotes in here, which could be considered, are you hooking people to watch more than the first 3 to 5 seconds on that video, right? So that is why we're talking about these content structures. How do we get attention, right? That click-through rate, how do we increase that? And then how do we increase retention, people watching the videos through some of these elements that we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things I want you to consider right before we actually dive into this. I'm personally very visual, so the way that I picture in my head is like Lego blocks, right? So you have, Lego block number 1, Lego block number 2. If you're familiar with video editing, right, like you'll see your timeline and you see like these chunks of information, where that's like the video, the intro, the thing. So think about these like pieces that you're putting together for your full production, in a sense. As we continue to have this conversation, right? I think when we do the presentations, we put it visually that way, like different colors. Like if your main story is blue, right, or the beginning of the thing is yellow, and you get into it. And the other thing is, a lot of the questions when people haven't published much is, what's the right structure, right? Like we had a question with a company out in Dubai last week, and they were like, hey, we want to start a podcast. They've been talking about this for like a year or so. We've seen them in multiple events, and finally they're like, awesome. How do like what do we record as an intro? Where do we put it? Like, and we're starting to talk about these structures, but at the end of the day, what we want to do is we want to decide on one of those structures, produce it, put it out there, and then receive that feedback, like Fonzi was saying, right? So what we've seen, there is no perfect structure, right? Depends a lot in your levers, like your topics, your content itself, your personality as a host, right? Like there's many aspects, but what we really want to do is put you in motion, right? These are some elements, some principles that we've seen over the years that work in a general sense, right? And then mix them together with your style is going to make a lot of sense. And then you're going to start gathering that data to start modifying and changing.
Yeah, word of warning is don't think about this as a checklist that you need to check off every single time you're trying to create content. Is more of elements, sort of principles, right, that you learn, and then as you are creating, you try to consciously integrate them in your business. But whether you manage to put some or not, put the content out there and let the consumer vote. Because at the end of the day, and I just put this on actually my Instagram story, is a lot of people think that by pressing publish, they deserve to be heard. But, a restaurant, for example, they are not going to keep serving a plate of food that is not bringing people back, or that is getting bad reviews, or, whatever, a bad plate of food. A restaurant is not going to keep serving that. So in this case, the social media platform is a restaurant. And if they get a bad piece of content, they're not going to keep putting it out into the world. So you need to produce good content. And who votes on that is the consumer. The person on the other side is the person that's going to say whether this is an actual good piece of content or not. So let's start with the beginning on getting attention, right? And obviously you've heard about this, I am sure. It's called the hooks, right? Like what is the purpose of the hook, right? Very simple. Just like when you're fishing, you want to hook somebody and attract them to you and get them to stay. But a lot of people just talk about it. Well, the hooks is usually you have this question, right? Or this statement with the problem that people, have. But there's actually many other hooks as well. And I'm super curious. This is a little bit of a tangent, but there's this lady I follow on Twitter. She's super good. She talks about writing, and she wrote a book called A Book of Hooks, and I can't wait to get my hands on it. But close tangent. What are some of the hooks that we are telling our team to look for within the content, right? So we give them this long form piece of content, since sometimes we're not creating like a real specific type of content. Is usually this multi-purpose from the episodes. And we tell them these are some of the moments that you need to be aware of when looking for clips, right? One of my favorites is high emotional moments, right? And we added kind of like a shock rating to this. Like, what would you do if all of a sudden you tune in, you open a clip, and we're just cracking up? Like we are laughing, we're crying of laughter. Funniest thing we've seen in the world, but you have no context yet. It'll probably cause curiosity on your end and make you ask yourself, why are these guys laughing so hard, right? So you can start the hook with a big emotion. Let's say it's not laughter. Let's say it's crying. We're literally sobbing in here, just bawling our eyes out. We're so freaking sad. You would ask yourself, why are these guys so sad? And then you proceed, and with the content, obviously satisfy that question that the viewer has. Another one is bold statements, right? And Alex Hormozi is known for this. Like if you look at his videos, he usually starts with a very bold statement. So for us, that bold statement could be, hey, you need to be publishing 3 pieces of content every single day to be successful, right?
Or like ignore all content hacks out there, right?
Exactly.
For example, something like that.
Exactly. So like something that you believe that you stand for, but is bold and you're pushing it. What this causes is some people are gonna align with it, and usually because of confirmation bias, right? They wanna see more, listen more of the things that they believe in. They're gonna stay and they're gonna listen. Yeah. But at the same time, you have the polar opposite, which is probably the people that are not aligned with you, right? They might stay just to try to refute the argument, just getting the conversation in the argument, right?
And I think this one is specifically interesting to me because, we talk about polarization, a lot of it. And obviously, if you're, sharing your bold statement of the belief, your own belief, right? It can be challenging if you're starting out and maybe you're questioning some of those beliefs yourself, right? Maybe it's something that you're going through at the moment, or, there's some proof. But at the end of the day, what we encourage is lean on those, right? Lean on the results that you're having, and lean on your own thoughts. And yes, it is gonna cause some negative ripples, and that's okay, right? Because at the end of the day, that's engagement for your account, for example, right? Those are one of those indicators. People comment different thing, and the example that I always go back to is when we're running the media for the fitness studios that we work here, right? And I remember we put this one piece of content in about 10 different accounts. It's like 10 different locations. And the piece of content was grabbing information. We're interviewing a coach, and the coach was telling a story about bodybuilding, and they said a joke, right? And we decided to grab that because it was one of these bold statements, and we put it out there, right? And it was the same piece of content in 10 different accounts. One account caught fire. Remember, I was driving back that night, and the manager of the whole region is like giving me a call. I'm like, it's 10 p.m. Like, why is this guy calling me? I'm not picking up. It's like 10th time, right? I'm walking into the apartment. I think Luca was like 4 months old at the time. I was like, I have to feed the baby. I'm not going to pick this up, but this guy won't stop. So anyways, I pick up the phone, and this guy's like fuming, is like furious. He's like, take that down. And I'm like, what do you mean? I have no idea. We forgot about this clip, right? And then he's describing the situation. I'm like, oh, let me go see the account, right? So we go in there. I think that video at the time had about 5,000 views, right, in a private Facebook page, which it was not normal at the time, and like 300 comments, right? And this thing is like live refreshing as we go through. And you could tell by the comments and by the thing that, some people didn't like the joke and they were commenting on it. And then you had the members of the studio defending this thing, right? So you have two different positions, right? The people that really like it and the people that did not like it at all, right? So what I told the guy at the time was like, this is actually really good, right? Because if you actually read the comments, right, you have a lot of people that are supporting your statement in this thing, right? And then we dug deep a little bit more, and we found out that the people that didn't like it were people that were kicked out of the studio a while back because they were cheating on different things, right? And they're not the ideal client. So moral of the story is like your message is going to act like a magnet, right? Your bold statement is going to act like a magnet for those that really resonate with your message, right? And it's going to repel those that don't. But here's the fun part. Here's the thing. And this is something that maybe me and Fonzie, we need to like dive into a little bit more, right? But it's as you repel those people, they might be louder, right? So there might be few people, but they might be a lot louder. And then your account can get these things, right? And it reminds me as well of Brian's piece of content. It was a bold statement in the fact that it was a bold story that he shared.
Yeah,
right.
I'm a share on that.
Okay,
here in
sounds
a second.
good. But anyways, so that, don't be scared of doing something like that. Test it out. Obviously, there's a scale to like how polarizing you can be, and obviously, if it's something that you really, really believe, if you put it out there, you're gonna actually be helping a lot of people that need to hear that message.
Yeah, there's a saying that is, when you try to talk to everyone, you talk to no one, right? And I think that just aligns with that. A lot of people just try to be in the middle, try to like please everybody, not to upset anybody, ruffle any feathers. But guess what? If you try to do that, nobody's really going to resonate with you, and you're just going to be one more of the pack. So what other types of hooks do we have in here, right? We also got pain and pleasure, right? The person that describes the pain the best, people assume they have the solution. So it's pretty good to, lead with that pain. And usually people want to run away from pain faster than they want to run towards pleasure. So that's why kind of like pain-based statements are pretty powerful, right? Or pain-based questions are pretty powerful to hook people. But you get the counterpart, which is the pleasure side as well, right? Like what type of results are they looking, and can you include in questions in statements to drive people's curiosity towards your content? Then we have what my brother was talking about, which is that climax of the story, right? And we have one of our clients. He has a incredible story, super impactful, right? And we started one of his clips with the climax, right? We created, it was a loop, but we decided to start the clip in the climax of the story, I don't want to kind of like ruin the whole thing, but pretty much is it had a pretty high shock value that people will
Something that
listen
make you gasp when you see it or hear it. You're like,
yeah,
wait, what?
and people listen to it and they're like, there's no way
That
this is
happened.
crazy.
Yeah.
Right. And obviously that drives curiosity because now you get the climax of the story, but people need to satisfy the context, right? They need context of the story. Like they have questions. As soon as you show that climax, they're going to be asking themselves, okay, how did that happen? Why did that happen? I need to know. And hopefully your content answered those questions as well. And then, of course, the last one is, which I think is the most overused, are the questions. So, for example, here in the podcast, for the multi-purposing aspect, I could be asking my brother, hey, which one is your favorite of these elements towards creating hooks? That could be the beginning of the clip that our team picks. And then obviously they add that question and then they add my
The
brother's
answer.
answer.
Yeah.
And now you satisfy the purpose of the question. So that is some of the elements, some of the things that our team are actively looking for in our content and in our clients' content to create these hooks to attract people to watch. Now, then it becomes a matter of, can we keep people listening for a period of time? Obviously, when they are in shorts, when they're in reels, they have the quick kind of like, let me just scroll through pretty fast. I'm just here for entertainment. I'm looking for funny stuff or whatever it is. They're not really sitting down to consume a piece of content. And actually, I read this the other day, which kind of like really challenge one of my point of views, and I want to invite you to actually think about this.
Yeah.
Right, I'm gonna tie it to something I heard from Alex Hormozi a while back. He was saying the beliefs that we question the least are usually the beliefs that we believe to be true. Right, and I think in the marketing world, a belief that most people think it is true, and I honestly haven't heard many people challenge this belief, is the fact that the attention span of people is less than 15 seconds or like less than 8 seconds, right? And the other day I was reading this book and it talked about, like, you know what, there's actual studies that says that it is not true, that like in certain elements it could be, is in certain environments and circumstances it can be true, but in a lot of other circumstances it cannot be true. And the main argument that they share in there, that I was like, look, if the attention span of people would be like 8 seconds, people wouldn't binge watch Netflix shows. And I was like, dude, that is so true. Like,
Yeah.
we literally watched like 6 episodes of The King of Collectibles the other day, straight in a row, like 3 hours watching TV, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that is so true. So we don't necessarily need to be re-engaging people every like 8 seconds, 15 seconds. Like, it really got into perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't need all these tricks every 8 seconds and 15 seconds
It
to
just
get
gets
people's attention,
It just
right?
get exhausting, right?
It gets exhausting.
We did a presentation with our amazing people from Capshow, right? That, by the way, there's a summit coming up this week, so if you haven't checked out, let us know. But we talked about attention reset. That was the topic of the talk, and those are things, you know, that you can, you know, put inside of your clip. This is more technical, but it's to reset that attention, right? So we're like, okay, how can we actually build a system around this where it's like, you know, every going off of that truth that you said, right, or that questionable truth, but it's like, okay, in the sense of clips, right, what are some things that can help retain the attention? And this is all based on the data of like is it actually relevant to you? Maybe it's not, right, because people are actually consuming your content, right? But for the sake of the framework, right, it's like, okay, every 8 to 12 seconds, what's happening in the screen that could reset, you know, your attention, right? As sometimes after we see a lot of these content, you get actually exhausted, right?
I'm exhausted after scrolling through all this content. I was like,
But-
oh, I need a break, and I haven't done
and here's
anything.
the deal. Yes, that could be a cool trick to have, you know, in your tools, right? But at the same time, it's like, does your content actually need it? And that's when you have to ask yourself, like, what is the type of content that you want to create, right? And just to close this with 2 examples, right? One is I started following this one guy that had really easygoing, calm, without any attention reset type of video, right? He's different because of the way that he shoots, right? The type of camera that he uses, the lighting, whatever. But all the videos look exactly the same, right? And he has an amazing community that has been following, and the topics are very interesting, and they apply to me in this point of my life, right? And just now, right before this podcast, we're looking some of our we were watching some of our favorite YouTubers, right? And this video editor that worked for a bigger channel decided to start his own thing, right? And he, at the end of one of his videos, he says like, look, I have a theory that YouTube still is in the very beginning stages, and we don't have to cater to the algorithm on all these like tactical things, and I'm gonna do my own thing, right? How I feel that I want to tell my story. And I think that's super cool, right? I think people need to lean into that a lot more.
Yeah. I think there's like trends that go about, like, for example, when Alex Hormozi started editing his videos with the bold, the big captions, all these things, like people thought that he was being successful because he had the big captions. But
be honest. Like when you see those big captions,
now I tune out immediately.
Do you stay watch the video or you just skip it through?
Yeah, I normally, it depends. It depends on the creator. But a lot of times if it's somebody that I really don't know, immediately I'm like, it's like one more of the
another
pack,
one,
right?
Yes.
So I think it's interesting, right? Again, going back to keeping people's attention. This is how it started, right? And I wanted to challenge you to start thinking about, okay, do I actually need an 8-second reset, 15-second reset? And what I would recommend is watch your clip after you make it. And if you find yourself losing attention while watching your own clip, probably other people are going to disengage as well, right? So there are many ways to kind of like nurture this curiosity so you can keep the attention of people throughout the videos. What are some of those? Open loops, right? I mean, we started this by saying, hey, we're going to mention a few elements that you need to learn. That is an open loop. And then we started hooks, X, Y, Z. Right now, open loops, X, Y, Z. We're giving you one by one, but we have a finite element that we added at the very beginning. And once we complete that, your curiosity might be satisfied, right? So a good example of this is list. You can start a clip by saying, hey, these are the 6 steps we do everything with for our publishing journey. So make sure you learn this, especially the last one, which is top, is the most important one because it's the glue for everything. Now you're like, okay, cool. I want to learn all 6, but at the same time, I know that the last one is the most important one. I'm giving a little extra incentive in there for you to stay and listen for a little bit longer, right? So again, list is good. Promises. What can you promise at the beginning that you can deliver at the end? Or just so you guys know, there's been a trend of delivering the promise right after, right? Kind of like deliver the promise in a superficial way, like, hey, this is the answer, and then people want to know, okay, but why is this? And then you explain. So if we start saying, hey, look, you shouldn't be posting more than you should be, actually, let me phrase that, you should be posting more than 3 times a day every single day, and this is why, boom boom boom, you explain it, right? And then you go and give you any other argument that you might add to those clips. And another one that is really good is callbacks throughout your content. And we've done this in the podcast a few times. You are talking about a specific topic. And if you've created a previous topic about that same thing that you're mentioning at that moment, you just say, hey, by the way, we talk about this with our guest on episode 314. Make sure you go there. If you watch YouTube, you're actually going to see a lot of these callbacks. They're really good creators. They know how to kind of like stitch their content together. And throughout the video, they might say, by the way, if you want to know more about this, make sure you check out the video that is up here in the corner. And they have a card pop out that people can click and watch the videos, right? It's pretty impressive, actually, when they know how to structure their videos like that.
Yeah, and again, like visually, right? Like obviously, you know, if you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening it over a podcast episode, yes, there's ways that you can do that, right? As you said, but you can also do it in writing, right? You can do this for your blog post. You could do this for carousels, right? What's the first slide? What's the end of the slide, right? Like, what is the timeline of your content? Like, whether that looks visually as a video or as something that you write, right? And then includes these elements. I remember watching a YouTube video about this guy that does hot seats, right? And they bring somebody that's really successful. The videos are awesome, right? And if for some reason the guy like turns on a candle at the beginning of the video, right, and they leave it there, now the attention of the viewer is in the candle, and they're thinking like, where's the guy is turning on the candle? And he goes on the content's really good, but then the video ends and that's it. The candle just stays there, right? And one of the critiques is like, that's an open loop, right? Because it's a visual thing where you turn on the candle, right? Then you do your episode. What about at the end of the episode? You just blow your candle off, right? And that's the end, right? Because people are going to be hooked throughout the video one of the elements is because they want to find out what happens to the candle, regardless
Yeah.
of the content of the video,
Yeah.
right? So what are some things that you can do like that? It's like, okay, well, he's showtime, right? We turn the lights, we do this. Don't bring candles in here because Katie might kill me in the studio. But what are some interesting things that you can do at the beginning of videos that are for you, right? Maybe it's a phrase that you use. Maybe something like, one of the calls that we have with Bart is like, with high energy comes, or high outcome, right? It's like at the end of the call, it's like, what is the one thing that you can open loops and close loops at the beginning and at the end of your content?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Like, these loops don't necessarily always need to be vocal, right?
Yeah.
They can be certain elements around. It can be music, some sounds, etc. And yes, there is a lot of post-production elements that you can add to your videos, but I would actually challenge you and encourage you to try to make a lot of videos without any post-production and review them, look at them and say, okay, this is engaging. Maybe I lost focus around halfway through the video. Okay, cool. How can I improve that?
Yeah.
Because the better you get at actually getting people's attention and retaining people's attention without any, video effects or post-production, once you add that other layer, it's going to be even better. So, and then also you're going to have less excuses to not publish, because a lot of people are like, well, I don't have an editor. Who's going to edit this thing? Well, let me tell you something. If you are good at creating content and good at keeping people's attention when you're talking and expressing yourself, you don't need an editor, because you can easily create a piece of content on your phone, then have an app, put the captions, if any, right? Instagram adds captions by itself now. And then you can just post the content out there and see what is the answer. Because at the end of the day, the audience is the one that votes whether your content is good or not.
I love this example, right? Came out of one of our favorite episodes. Shout out to My First Million from our network, right? And they're talking about this guy that does what's it called? Physics class Zoom meetings, something like that, right? And he just interviews experts in the physics field. And all he does is he grabs these Zoom calls, puts them on YouTube, no editing whatsoever. They're raw, the rawest, the better. And the guy has million subscribers, right? And it's like, okay, clearly is not the editing style of this person, right? Is the topic for that audience. Clearly that's a topic that maybe I won't watch. That's not my thing. But there's an audience for everything, right? And the cool thing about this is like he doesn't care. He just puts his content out there because he knows there's value. And clearly there is, because there's people that follow, interact, and there's a community around that person, around that topic, right? So again, with you, we highly encourage you. For us, that was the thing that unlocked everything with Facebook Live, right? We were like, the second we surrendered to it, like, hey, we're just going to do this thing and it's going to go live and there's no post-production, right? I think especially like I gave props to Fonzi because like he likes that stuff. If you like it and you enjoy doing it, that's a different thing. But for me, I didn't.
Yeah. But I mean, no amount of post-production is going to save you from a bad message, right? And that became one of our mottos when we started doing the 45 Live. We decided to repeat ourselves every single time: quality of the message over quality of the production. Because at the end of the day, if the message ain't good, people are not going to stick. But if the message is good, regardless of the post-production, they will want to stay and listen to you and learn from you. Which that actually takes to another element. The next one that I want to share. We got two left. Open loop right there, because now you're like, ooh, which ones are the last two? The first one is the rate of revelation. And this one is really cool, actually. I learned this one recently. And it's pretty much the pacing of the story, of the pacing of the content, right? And you have a few elements in here. You have the energy, right? You have obviously the stories that you're talking about. And pretty much what this means is, how fast am I guiding people throughout my content? If we have high energy, which we do have here in Content is Profit, and a lot of the stories are high energy, we can go from one thing to the other fairly quickly, progressing fairly quickly throughout the stories to keep you engaged. But if we get a little bit sad in here and we put a, slow music and tears starts to flow, and we start talking about the hard times that we had when we first decided to create content. It was hard. I remember that one time. You see the point. I'm not going to make this like a crying fest in here. But, do you see the point, right? We start to revealing and go a little bit maybe into depth in certain areas that we wouldn't go with a faster rate of revelation. So, and identifying when to do these things actually really helps, because guess what? It can be a very slow piece of content, but you can really keep people engaged. You don't always need to be jumping one thing after the other, which is what I believe most people think they need nowadays, right?
Not even counting what your personality or your creation style is, right? Because if you're not that type of person that likes high-paced things, it's gonna be really challenging for you to actually go ahead and
it's gonna
create.
Be draining.
Right? So I remember we talked in the challenge when we had the calls. Is like, when do we actually create? And it was hilarious because we will post around 10:30 at night. And we're like, hey, everybody, bring your videos in, right? Because we had an accountability system that we rewarded people that actually published regardless of how the video looked. But I remember at 11:30 at night you will start seeing all the videos come in, right, to the accountability. And one of the things that we ended up talking that came from that was like, when do you create? Like, are you in a high energy level where you can actually be good creating? For some people that is really challenging, right? And for some people we think that we need to be doing this. You don't need to be doing this. You get to do this. What an amazing opportunity is for you to talk about the things that you love and you're an expert and share with other people, right? So it's like, okay, what is my high level moment of my day that I can actually do this? For some people is like after the kids go to bed and you have your house is quiet, you can do the thing, right? Maybe for some people it's early in the morning. Maybe for others is at noon. For us, we've shifted the show, right? Started at 5 p.m. one time, then we ended up to like 2 p.m. Now we're doing it at noon-ish when we can, right? But interviews are always at noon, right? So we're still working on this, but when is the best time for you to create? And that will play into your style. Like, is it slower? Is it faster pace? Is you have this music or whatnot, right? And that's going to dictate your consistency and frequency, which are the two main things that you need to be starting to look at when you want to achieve like long-term success with the content.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the last one here that I have, and again, these are not like the only elements that there are. I'm sure there are others. And just like you, we are also learning as we go, right? This is a never ending process that you just keep learning, keep implementing, keep getting feedback, and then iterating and see what works and what not. So the next one is tonality, right? And this is something that I feel like I learned for the first time when we started the podcast. Because when we were just talking normal, right? Like we're and honestly, I feel like this has actually translated into my real life. I feel like now I'm all animated when I speak in real life. But tonality is important. It really helps to drive certain points through, right? And it actually helps again to re-engage people. Because if I'm talking like this, and guess what? I'm about to tell you a secret, and I lower my voice here, and I sound like I'm speaking right to your ear.
Hold on.
People might be like, "Whoa, yes, tell me that secret." But at the same time, I can make some emphasis by kind of like raising my tone in
Hold
here.
on, I'm gonna put this out there. Right? Your tone of voice never changes. It's like you might think that you might be thinking, no. You might be thinking that you're speaking low, but you're not. Promise. I promise.
But it's about like the whisper in your ear. Yo, what's up, baby? How you doing? No, but it's
we just lost everybody.
At the end of the point, tonality does help to keep people engaged regarding of what type of points you're making, right? Again, you can increase your tone, put a little bit more power behind it, right? Or maybe lower it, right? Like our good friend Adam. Adam has his like deep voice, and he talks to you like he also, kind of like a one-on-one, and you're like, yeah, bro, keep talking to me. I appreciate you, right? So I think like
I didn't know you had that bromance with Adam.
It's a bromance. It's a bromance, but I think it drives, kind of like this this tone of authority in a way, right? And personally, I believe we have a little bit more of a entertaining tone, right, when we talk to people. But
recently, people have been like, "What's your entertaining show?" And I'm like, content's profit. I'm like,
right?
No. Like, do like another like general funny show that you guys do. I'm like, yes, people are telling us that we are funny. I gotta tell Katie this.
Yes, we're there's actually plans in there for a show. So what is it?
RJ, what's up, man? Welcome. Yes, welcome to a live stream. By the way, for those listening, we actually live stream this every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday in our group and in our social media. So if you want to stop by and say hi, we're always welcome. RJ, right. My man, good seeing you. Huge podcasters as well.
One of the OGs right here.
One of
RJ.
the OGs, yes.
But yeah, that's pretty much all I have for you guys today on content structure.
That's right.
Again, this is literally the same thing that we're teaching our team. This is what we were telling them. Hey, we want you to look for this stuff when you guys are watching our videos. The hooks, right? High emotions, bold statements, pain, pleasure, climax of the story. And then they're also manufacturing the content. Sometimes we might have 2 minutes of a very valuable clip, but they can rearrange the clip so it doesn't lose the context, but so it is engaging and it keeps people watching, right? So they're kind of like some content designers back there. They're content magicians, and you are as well, and your team are as well. So don't be afraid to move things around, test with new hooks. If you're always just asking questions, are you an entrepreneur that is tired of X, Y, and Z? Try this something different. Make a statement, right? Like, hey, entrepreneurs shouldn't be working more than 2 hours a day. Damn, you know what? You got my attention, right? so try new things and let people vote. Don't be that restaurant that keeps serving trashy food and then they don't get people back in there and then suddenly they go out of business. You need to craft the good stuff, learn what is the good stuff that people want to consume more of, and then put more of that out into the world.
So good.
What a good episode.
What, FONZI?
That was good. I feel inspired.
Studio clap.
I have my, right here. My liquid goodness.
We got to disclose there's no alcohol.
No alcohol.
No alcohol.
Yes.
We promise. All right. I think that's the episode. Guys, thank you so much for tuning to the Contents Profit podcast. Go ahead and follow the show in your favorite podcasting platform on YouTube and on social media at BIZBROS. Go.
That is right. If today's episode helped you move one step closer towards your goal, please don't forget to share this episode and leave a 5-star review. And of course, go to contentsprofit.com to join the fam.
That's right. See you guys. Take care.
All right.
All right. For those that are still
RJ.
live, let's go. RJ, good seeing you, my man. Let's take a quick selfie. Where we are. Our selfies are always
Let's
the same.
go. Yeah, literally. We have like 400 pictures that look exactly the same.
All right, guys. Take care. We'll see you guys on Wednesday. Bye.
Yeah.